Hi writers, and welcome to Coaching with Casey. Today we're talking about book covers. Now, we've all heard the term never judge a book by its cover, but it's not necessarily true when it comes on to getting published. Your cover is the first thing the reader sees, and it needs to invoke some type of emotion in order for them to pick up your book and read it. There are 3 factors when it comes to book covers. 1 is color. The second is font. And the third is style. So I decided to bring some books along to show you exactly what I mean about color and style. Now, the first book I have is called Save the Cat. It's by Jessica Brody. And this book here is orange and yellow. And as you can see, the kitty can't hurt. It's cute as well. But the orange and yellow jumps out at you. Generally, orange and yellow are used for informational books, books that provide some sort of instruction. This book here teaches you how to write. So it makes you want to grab it from the shelf. The next book I have is called A Crash Course in Love by Steve Ward and Joanne Ward. Now this jumps right out at you because it's red and yellow. So automatically our brains are like, okay, is it a warning? What is it? I want to know more about this book. So this is another great example of using color to attract the reader. Now, pinks and lighter colors, softer colors, are used for some type of inspirational book. Sometimes they're used for self-help books as well. I have an example here, Make Every Man Want You by Marie Forleo. And this book is a self-help book and it has pink. So you'll find lighter covers that are softer are more of romance or self-help books as well. But they have a softer side because they're trying to attract women. That's why they use lighter colors like pink hues and so on. Now we're getting into the horror genre. Here I have Twilight. Everybody knows this one. Now Stephenie Meyer used black in this one with red. Generally black and red colors are for horror type books. Now, although Twilight wasn't that scary, it is in the horror genre. And this type of color is something that's more or less known in the horror genre. Another, I decided to show you guys my book, which I use black and red as well on the cover. It's kind of jarring and it attracts the reader because the style of color. So if anyone is to pick this up, they would know automatically it's not a self-help book. They would know automatically it's not an inspirational book just because of the type of colors that were being used. Also, I have a last book by the horror guru himself, Mr. Stephen King. Now, although this is not a horror book, it is a more or less a biography and essays involved in it. But this author is conveying a black and white, which is simplistic, but it also attracts you because it gives the feeling that they're going to let you in on something that they're talking about. Now let's examine fonts. The books that I previously showed you would be a good example to actually show you again regarding the fonts. Now this is a bold font, so it's supposed to stand out and show the reader that, hey, I have something to say. Generally, that's why people tend to use bold fonts, because it's provoking, hey, I need to look at this. I need to pick this up. This looks interesting. So again, that's a bold font. Now this one, although it is a nice little font to work with, it's written in red, so it wants to attract you right away. Although the hues on the page are pink and they have softer writing on here, because the whole title of the book is Make Every Man Want You, How to Be So Irresistible You'll Barely Keep From Dating Yourself. Now, this part in pink is written in cursive because, again, it's trying to be softer and appeal to women. And I have another book here, which is mine, The Eve of Darkness. As you can see, this is a horror font. It's an old school horror font that I use. I actually found it to be best for my book, and I bolded my name at the bottom. So it stands out at you. What I wanted people to do is see the cover and be kind of intrigued about the cover. Like, what is that actually about? She's holding an apple, but it has a tree carved into it. What is that about? So again, it provokes some type of emotion or some type of intrigue to find out what's inside the book. And Stephen King's memoir, it's a soft font used here, but his name is in bold and the title is in bold. And then in the middle, it says A Memoir of the Craft. So this will draw your attention because first thing you see here is Stephen King, and then what is it about on writing. So font has a lot to do with your book cover and how people view your book. So we learned about colors that are specific to your genre. Pinks and whites are generally, and pinks, whites, and reds are generally for romance novels. You can incorporate reds, blacks, and whites into horror novels. Those are the more jarring colors that they use. Lighter hues like lavenders, soft pinks, and things of that nature are for romance and self-help, generally, those colors. Oranges and yellows are generally used for instructional pieces or information pieces. The style of your book is basically what type of graphic you're putting on your book. Graphics can be consistent with any element in your novel. Like, for example, if one of your main characters is a coffee drinker, then you might have a coffee cup on the front cover. That little element is specific to your book. And also make sure that whatever element that you use on the cover of your book is relative to your genre, because the last thing you want to be doing is conveying one thing when your genre is saying something else. Now, the last thing I want to stress upon is homemade book covers. Now, homemade book covers can sometimes look, well, homemade. And the sad part about it is I know as indie authors, we're trying to save money because it can become extremely expensive if we're not quite careful of what we're doing. Now, for the homemade book covers, it's best to go with a professional, someone who will offer you their graphic design skills, sit with you, and also make sure you vet these designers. I had a hang up with a designer some years ago. The person they didn't seem that experienced. However, they had a beautiful portfolio. I'm not sure if it was doctored up, but find out how many edits that you will be offered as the consumer, because the edits really count. If you are not sure of what you want specifically, work with them to draw that, to draw your dream cover out and make sure it's something that you actually want and something that you would like to show off, because eventually it will end up on your book cover and you're going to be stuck with it. So that's something that's major important. So please make sure you vet your graphic designer. If you decide to do a homemade cover, make sure you have the skills in order to do it. Don't just go onto Canva, pull something, and then slap something on your cover. The reason being is probably someone else did the same thing, and you may end up with a book cover that someone already used. So I stress to you to use either a graphic designer or go to a site that offers pre-made book covers. That way you can go through an assortment and pick specifically which one you want. And the great thing about it is the book cover that you choose, nobody else will have it. Once it's sold only to you. So a lot of those pre-made book cover sites, don't be afraid of them. They're actually graphic designers who who created the art, and they have no place else to put it. So they put it on the pre-made book covers and it's there for sale. So you could use that as an added resource when you go and you shop for your book covers. So I hope you enjoyed this video on book covers. And if you have any comments or questions, please leave those below. Until next time, I'm Casey Lossner.